Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of All Access AM. I'm Billy Embody. Happy Monday. Another big weekend of ACC football is in the books. Get a little bit more clarity on that ACC championship race that everybody is watching and talking about across college football. We can now put the storyline about Duke being in that race to bed. We'll talk about that. But of course, Virginia, Georgia Tech, plenty of others staying alive in the race. We'll break all that down on the show today. Again, thanks for joining us, 7 to 8 a.m. Central, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time. Appreciate all of you guys who have hit that subscribe button for us on the YouTube channel. Growing like crazy. Really appreciative of it. We are back in the studio after a trip down to sunny South Florida for a little fun in the sun with the fam. And we're back at it for this stretch run as the holiday season really starts to pick up. And look, the gift of giving is not really there just yet for the ACC. Boston College playing a little bit of Indian giving, some takebacks involved there with that game against Georgia Tech, which we'll break down. But do, of course, want to tell you guys to support our friends at Security National Bank. We really appreciate their partnership, sponsoring our Monday show. Great friends of the show and excited to continue to partner with them. And this is the time of year that you want to be working through your personal, your business, banking situation and making sure it's all lined up for 2026. And Security National Bank can help you with that. They're a family-owned business. They've been doing it for decades now, and they're expanding across the country at a rapid pace. So make sure you go to securitynational.bank for more information there on how they can help you reach your financial goals. We also have a huge announcement later in the show with a new partner coming on board with us at All Access AM that we're thrilled about. So let's dive on in here to week 12. Huge contest that led off the Friday night slate for the ACC, and that was Clemson at Louisville. Louisville cratering right now in the month of November, kind of playing the part of a team that maybe didn't necessarily have everything lined up to make it to the ACC championship. But boy, it would have been so sweet if they could have won out for the Cards, because they did have that one loss going into November. They sat in a position where you could see them making the college football playoff. They have the talent. They have some of those pieces. They're just missing Isaac Brown, which Kewan Brown said, hold on, I got you for a minute there. But this game, this 20-19 loss for Louisville, a really difficult one for the ACC, because now you've seen Louisville drop 2 straight, and they've lost them by a combined 4 points now, which is devastating. Cal in overtime, and then Clemson Friday night at home, both games at home. So their matchup now against SMU. SMU fans, I know, very much thanking Louisville for yet another 11 a.m. kickoff. It'll be on ESPN2 this weekend in Dallas. For Louisville, they do get the chance to play spoiler for SMU, which does have one loss and was sitting on a bye. But Louisville has completely sunk their chances of playing for an ACC championship. They now have 3 losses in league play. They've lost back-to-back. They were entering the month of November kind of sitting pretty at 7-1. Their lone loss to Virginia in overtime. Louisville feels like a team that has just missed the boat completely in terms of the finer details of winning football games. This Louisville team just wasn't able to take care of the ball against Cal. It cost them. You go back to this game against Clemson now, you get kicking issues, you get penalties. It was quite the penalty parade there for Louisville in the fourth quarter, and it cost them. And so you really have nobody to blame but yourself if you're Louisville. And, kudos to Clemson for staying in the fight, so to speak, and not letting this season for them now sitting at 5-5, 4-4 in ACC play. They should. It's been a bad season for Clemson, but it's not this bad. They should get bowl eligible this weekend with a game against Furman. That game set for it'll be a 3:30 Central Time kickoff on the CW there for Senior Day at Clemson. But they've not let this season that has been more than disappointing for them affect them in terms of how hard they play. They've really tried their best to continue to play spoiler, to continue to fight hard. And I think, watching this Clemson team, you've got to give them credit for that. There's not much to break down about them. They are now, of course, out of the ACC race. They have been for a minute with a lot of their early season losses, but you get 187 yards from Cade Klubnik in this game. He plays clean enough to get this one done. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, nothing really crazy. And this Louisville defense was able to, for the most part, bottle up this Clemson attack, but Clemson wins the fourth quarter 7-0, and that's it. And that's really, disappointing if you're a Louisville fan, seeing your team come up short, miss field goals, 2 of them in this one that really cost this game. And, across the country, a lot of people are just shaking their heads at Jeff Brom right now, who we talked about earlier this month, nearing a contract extension, nearing a chance to stay home and continue to coach up the Louisville Cardinals. And we've not seen that come just yet to fruition. It was being reported on by On3's Pete Nakos and the entire crew over there that they are working on it. They're getting close, it seemed. So we'll see how that impacts the rest of the way, these 2 games. Again, Jeff Brom is the guy for Louisville. They're going to pay up to keep him. He's been a hot name, but certainly you see his team lose 2 games by 4 points, and it is just maddening if you're an ACC fan having watched that played out, because they were in position. They had the big win over Miami. Their one loss was to Virginia, who continues to sit in a strong position now, not only for the ACC championship, but they still sit in a strong position to make the college football playoff. Louisville had that opportunity to really make a run at the end of this season and make it all happen and make it come together. So a complete disappointment for the Louisville Cardinals to see their season go down like this. And to top it off, you see post-game, Miller Moss gets asked kind of about these personal foul or unnecessary roughness penalties. And he says it's a culture thing that can't really be fixed right now. And it's going to be something that has to be addressed in the offseason. He said, quote, "I get it. You're competitive. It's getting to the end of the game. You want to do everything you can to win the game. The ultimate competitors have the greatest amount of focus in those moments. They're able to kind of flatline and stay even keeled. That's obviously something we have to work on. I don't think that's something that gets fixed week to week. That's a cultural thing and an off-season thing that's going to need to be addressed. It didn't come down to any one thing or any one penalty. We own this as a team, and we all have each other's backs in doing that." So, look, Jeff Brom is building something at Louisville. It is on the right track. They have a chance over these next 2 games to get themselves, again, at SMU, not an easy task, and then against Kentucky, which has kind of played spoiler as of late for a couple SEC teams and really given everybody everything they can handle, and could very well be playing for Mark Stoops' job in a sense, that final game. But you do have a strong opportunity to finish this season here and get to 9-3 and be in a good spot. You will be headed to kind of a nothing-ish bowl game. But for Louisville here, they've got to find a way to get over the hump in these, I'm just going to say, smaller games. Clemson, Cal, those 2 are not games that you should lose when you've already had a win over Miami. You've played Virginia as tough as you can. Those are the types of games that have held Jeff Brom's vision back from being all that it can be. So they are just licking their wounds over there at Louisville, because what began as such a month of promise is sitting in a very precarious situation now down the stretch. They could lose their final 4 games of the season. Again, shout out to Clemson. I'm not going to spend too much time on Clemson. They've been kind of out of the ACC championship race. You've got to give them credit for playing the type of game you needed to get that win on the road. Both teams had a turnover in the game, but Clemson was just able to get enough. And of course, having 2 kicks missed by Louisville certainly helped a lot. So, and it's just a shame that the ACC is seeing one of its marquee, teams this season kind of fall late in this year. It does not help a team like Miami. It does not help a team, like SMU, if they were to win out and make the ACC championship, it doesn't help Virginia, who's trying to win out and win it all. So disappointing stuff there for Louisville. That was just Friday night. And I can tell you, before we get to the rest of this weekend, including Notre Dame Pitt, I want to make a really special announcement. This is a announcement that is really exciting for me. It's humbling, and it's just met with so much gratitude. We are partnering with the La La Land Foundation, which, of course, for those of you who don't know, is tied to La La Land Cafe and La La Land Coffee, a great experience for you guys. If you've ever been to one, it is built on kindness. And the La La Land Foundation does an incredible job of giving kids life skills as they've kind of aged out of the foster care system. And for people who don't know, they are just on a complete upward trajectory as far as where this foundation is going and what the mission is going to be able to accomplish in the years to come. And it is not something that's kind of just built on actions or just doing things for press releases and things like that. It is a complete movement. It is a mindset. And that's why I think it's really important that, we have been able to partner with them. So we're thrilled to announce this. LaLaLandFoundation.com is where you can go and learn more. You can learn how to support. You can support financially. You can support with your time. And there are so many people that are in an area of their life where they need help and they need a little bit of guidance. Even, you can get involved as far as mentorship and supporting through your own business, whether it be through time and mentorship or financially. But the La La Land Foundation is just an incredible foundation that we're so excited to partner with. As La La Land Cafe continues to grow, the foundation is going to get even more visible. They are, their own separate entities, but it is just an incredible moment for me ahead of the holiday season to be able to announce that we have partnered with the La La Land Foundation. So go to LaLaLandFoundation.com to learn more. We're going to be sharing more with you guys about what they do, their work, and how you guys can support in various ways. So this is such an exciting moment for us to be able to partner with the La La Land Foundation. So excited about that. It is a great foundation. And again, you can support financially at LaLaLandFoundation.com right now, or you can learn more about how to get involved at LaLaLandFoundation.com. So thrilled to announce that, and so appreciative of them for trusting us and hoping to make a little bit of a difference in this world with kindness. And that's their mission. That's their mindset. That's the movement that they're trying to carry forward. So excited about that with La La Land, and check them out. Doing some great work out there. Saturday, Notre Dame Pitt, and raise your hand if you thought Pitt would be competitive in this football game. Right here. Here's one. Notre Dame wins 37-15. And I've got to give the Irish a ton of credit here. They came out, they got going right off the bat, 14-3 lead, got a pick six. Just an outstanding display of how dominant this Notre Dame team can be. And to go into Pitt and with all the fanfare, ACC huddle, college game day, sold out crowd, Aaron Donald's jersey getting retired, and to have the display that they put out there, credit to them. That is awesome. They got up early and rode that to a 21-3 halftime lead. They did not look back. It was 28-9 at one point. And even when it got to 28-9, they returned the 2-point conversion all the way to make it 30-9. So just a disappointing day for Pitt. But there's two different sides to this coin here. There's the side for Pitt that says, all right, Pat Narduzzi was right. They didn't have to win this game. it doesn't matter. They can lose 100 to whatever, and they can still go play for an ACC championship. They can go win out. They can go do all these things. But what it does is it makes it extremely difficult for Pitt to have an incredible argument to make the college football playoff outright if they win the ACC. There's probably going to be conversation around them if they were to win out and go to Charlotte and win that football game, which that's the hard part. You could have just kind of screwed that up in a sense. Because when they made the change at quarterback, they already had 2 losses. So they had ripped off, however many straight. They get to Notre Dame. You got Mason Heinschel, finishes 16 of 33 with an interception, 126 yards, just not his day. Marcus Freeman is a great defensive mind. They did an incredible job, not only bottling up Mason Heinschel, but bottling up the entire Pitt run game. No rusher had more than 35 yards on the day. So a really difficult front to face, and Notre Dame showed it. They showed why they're a top 10 team. And Pitt now sitting there having to win out without a doubt to get to Charlotte, of course, which they already had to do. And they do have a little bit of a difficult path to making the college football playoff because of this loss. They could have sat there and been able to say, hey, we're in. If we win out, no questions asked. We made a change of quarterback and it's shown up. But instead, now they're going to have to win the ACC. They're going to have to get a little bit of help in all likelihood to make this one work. And if not, they'll be sitting at home. But I think for me, with regards to the ACC, you're beyond disappointed because you had a chance to really make a statement for the league, which is kind of a common theme here over the last couple of weeks for this league and some of the teams that haven't held up their end of the bargain. And you didn't make that, and you got blown out. So a really tough day for Pat Narduzzi. And I think just kind of watching College Game Day, he went out there and said, he kind of walked back his comments early in the week where he said that this doesn't really matter. We don't have to win this game. We've got the ACC, all of those things. And I think it's just really disappointing in that regard because he came off as saying, look, I was trying to take the pressure off the guys. Well, he kind of made it awkward, right? Like it just was a weird whole statement to kind of go through to get to that point. So I think he could have done a better job handling the week and the pressure and the buildup. On the flip side of all of this, with regards to the ACC, well, now all the pressure's off. They're certainly not going to be considered, anybody but a spoiler and a potential, just team that can make the ACC championship. There's not going to be any, wow, look at Pitt. They beat Notre Dame. They're hanging around the top 13 or so, the top 12. Now they've got two huge games coming up to end the season. Can they win them? Can they make the college football playoff as an at-large maybe? Just winning out and even losing in Charlotte. None of that's going to happen now. They're going to have 2 really difficult tests this weekend, starting with Georgia Tech and then facing Miami. Huge game, of course, Saturday night, 6 o'clock Central Time on ESPN. Pitt at Georgia Tech. The most Pitt thing to do would be to go and play spoiler. But they've got to get their offense back on track. But guess what? The good thing for Pitt, and this is wild, everyone, but they're facing a Georgia Tech defense that continues to struggle at an incredible rate. And we'll get to that as a whole in just a second because the way Georgia Tech was able to survive at Boston College is just unbelievable in a sense. But you had an opportunity to at least be competitive, to at least make a statement. You didn't do that, and now you're sitting there as kind of an afterthought. In the national sense, you've got an opportunity to win out, go to the ACC championship. We'll see if that happens, and if they do win out, obviously, it would knock Miami out of the college football playoff race as well. But if they can, get past Georgia Tech, it would certainly send a little bit more chaos into the grand scheme of things. So tough day. It's not any more complicated than you make mistakes and offensively. And I thought the Pitt defense played pretty well early on, especially, I mean, keeping it as close as it was at half with how much Notre Dame had the ball. Notre Dame drove down the field and they got a stop on, I believe, fourth and goal at the one. And so credit to them for keeping it close. And then, just Notre Dame just pulled away and got the cover too. So I was wrong on that. I thought Pitt would at least give them a game, and that didn't hold to be true there by any means. All right, let's get to Miami beats NC State 41-7. Again, this is kind of what Miami's been doing lately. They've been able to just go out and bounce back against poor teams. We'll read off a couple stats here. Miami 28 first downs to NC State's 9 on the day. Miami was only 5 of 10 on third down. I know that's kind of efficient, but still not an elite level. And total yards, 581 total yards to 143 total yards. Crazy. 214 yards on the ground for Miami, including 116 from Pringle, their running back, Gerard Pringle. Just an outstanding day offensively for Miami to bounce back. And NC State sitting at 5-5, 2-4 overall. I believe NC State has Florida State this weekend, so we'll see if they can make things miserable. Yes, Florida State Friday night game too. So we'll see if they can make things miserable for Florida State. Let's go to Boston College, Georgia Tech, and then we'll do Duke, Virginia. Pete Nakos of On3 is going to join us at 7:45 a.m. Central Time, so appreciate him for jumping on with us. Before we get to Georgia Tech, Boston College, because I have a lot of thoughts on this game, please do me a favor. It takes nothing at all for you to scroll down if you're watching on our YouTube channel, and please watch on the All Access AM YouTube channel. We're kind of multi-streaming right now, but hit the subscribe button to the YouTube channel. If it says subscribe, great. You're the man or the lady. You're the best. We appreciate you. And you don't have to do anything else. If it says subscribe, just click the button. It doesn't sign you up for anything crazy. You can opt in to emails if you want. That will let you know when we go live, which is 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. So just click subscribe for us. It helps us out a lot as we grow this thing, covering all things ACC. Georgia Tech beats Boston College 36-34. This game, Georgia Tech should, always have Bill O'Brien on their Christmas card. Brent Key should be sending him all sorts of chocolates and maybe some candy canes and maybe a box of Omaha Steaks. Maybe Omaha Steaks wants to come on and be a sponsor of All Access AM for that. But they deserve all the gifts for what they did for Georgia Tech here, because this was certainly a game that nobody thought Georgia Tech would go up and lose, let alone after the beatdown that SMU had put on Boston College the week prior. You kind of thought, okay, BC is going to check out. I mean, they were 1-9 going into this one. They were 0-6 now in the ACC. They had kind of spent their bullets. It was Wells Crowther game when SMU played them. But no, they got up for this one. Credit to Bill O'Brien and his staff for making it happen too. And I know we're acting like Boston College won the game, but it is really difficult to get up, I feel like, at this point of the season. And they did. And they did everything they could except win the game. And I really don't, I don't think they have anybody to blame but Bill O'Brien in a sense. So it's double-edged sword. Hey, Bill O'Brien, great job getting them in position, but also you can't take an unsportsmanlike penalty that at that point that tacks on 15 yards. That Haynes King throw, man, it was tight. It was right there, but you gotta just eat the whistle or whatever expression you want to use there. And you got to let the rest of the game play out, because at that point you were up, you were kind of in control. If your defense could just limit some explosives and things like that, you can make Georgia Tech really earn every single bit of it. But instead, you give them an extra 15 yards on that drive, and it was a really, really difficult thing for them to kind of overcome. And so Georgia Tech is able to kick a 23-yard field goal with 11 seconds left. And again, West Durham and the guys on the call, I believe Steve Adazio, were like, what is happening? How does Brent Key call that timeout with 11 seconds? It was fourth down. It wasn't third down. So anyway, it made no sense whatsoever. And Boston College got a heave at the end zone. But unfortunately for BC, it fell short. And Georgia Tech walks away with that 36-34 win. They outscored Boston College 19-6 in the fourth quarter, turning it around after BC had outscored them 14-3 in the third quarter. I had a couple of friends texting me in that fourth quarter, and they were starting to get all excited about that. The Boston College Eagles were right there. They were taking it to Georgia Tech. They could help out an SMU a lot. And I just simply said to one of them, I said, there's a lot of ball left. And sure enough, Georgia Tech made the most of it, winning with that field goal and getting it done. Haynes King continues to be an absolute stud out there. 26 of 34 for 371 yards and a touchdown, 0 interceptions. He also added 15 carries, 53 yards on the ground, just kept kind of churning it out. Really was able to, make things happen. But I think for me, Boston College just exposed once again how bad this Georgia Tech defense is. Georgia Tech to Boston College gave up 537 yards, including 362 yards passing to Dylan Lonergan, who completed 26 of 40 passes, 2 touchdowns, and they added 175 yards on the ground. Good for 6.7 yards per rush. Here's where Bill O'Brien went wrong. It was one of the drives, kind of in the fourth quarter. I forget which one it was, but they opened up and they threw the football. And Dylan Lonergan, by the way, guys were running wide open. And I don't know if he was starting to double clutch it or, in hockey, you'd call it squeeze the stick too tight, but he missed some wide open passes. And that got them into 2nd and 10. They ran a bubble screen or kind of tunnel screen, dropped. So all of a sudden they were 3rd and 10. I think they ran it. I think they picked up 9 maybe, or they kind of ran a little quick hitter over the middle. And Bill O'Brien doesn't go for it on 4th down. He doesn't go for it on 4th down. I think this was a drive. They went, incompletion, 7-yard pass. And it was 4th and 3. Here's the misconception on that. His knee was down a couple yards short. It on the broadcast, I believe they showed it was 4th and 1. It was 4th and 3 at their BC 32. Here's the crazy thing about that. They punt the ball, and the punt is a shank. It goes to the Georgia Tech 46. They get great field position. Next play, Georgia Tech scores. And then it's getting tight there. That closed it to 33. That made it 33-28. Georgia Tech, and then BC fired back, and then from there, Georgia Tech got that final field goal. But that drive right there, and that's a difficult decision to make, right? You're up 28-26. So if you turn the ball over there, man, that's difficult because you're automatically in field goal range for Georgia Tech. But that drive as a whole, as far as eating clock, got nothing accomplished. That was it. They burned off. They got the ball with 7:33, and they gave it back with 6:24 to play. And that's where Bill O'Brien really, really hurt his football team there. And the drive prior, I believe, was the one to close the gap to 28-26. The drive prior was the one where Haynes King was ahead of the line to gain, or looked to be, or may have been, or whatever you want to talk about with that. And maybe this was anyway, they're not showing a penalty, but they weren't able to get off the field. So really, really difficult loss for Boston College to stomach. Georgia Tech, 36-34, gets out of Chestnut Hill. Still right there, controlling its own destiny, 9-1 overall, 6-1 in the ACC. Here's the thing, and the college football playoff rankings come out tomorrow as we're recording this Tuesday, they'll come out. Georgia Tech's defense is in absolute shambles right now. They cannot stop anyone. They've given up, I think Andrea Adelson tweeted out how many yards they've given up in the last 2 games. It's something like 1,100 yards in the last 2 games. Might even be more, but it's hanging around that over 1,000 mark without a doubt. And this was off of a bye week against a Boston College team that really can't do much of anything. So a really disappointing performance defensively for Georgia Tech again. And this defense is just not trending in the right direction. So they've got to get it fixed, because this week they do face Mason Heinschel, and that, until proven otherwise against ACC competition, I guess, vaunted passing attack, talented offense. If Pitt is able to hang 30 plus on Georgia Tech this weekend, going to be trouble in Atlanta. Keep that in mind. That is the point number for Pitt to get to say, okay, this is going to be a ball game. This is going to be in trouble for Georgia Tech, and we'll see how it plays out, though, 6 o'clock on ESPN Saturday night. But just a really disappointing defensive effort, and it's starting to feel like it's going to cost them at some point. So we'll see. Virginia does what I honestly, sorry guys, I don't know which team I ended up picking. I would think I would have gone with Virginia if I knew Chandler Morris was for sure going to be healthy, but I might have picked Duke. I might have said, I don't know, don't pick it. But Virginia goes to Duke and wins 34-17. Duke scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to make it even look closer than it was. Virginia was in complete control here. And here's the thing, and we're 32 minutes and 50 seconds into this show, and I should have said this off the bat. Duke is who people who watch the ACC week in, week out thought they were. They're a 5-5 football team now. They're 4-2 in the ACC. Kudos to them for being one win away from bowl eligibility. They can get there this weekend against North Carolina or next week against Wake Forest. But this is also a team that's lost to Illinois, that's lost to Tulane, that's lost to Georgia Tech by killing themselves and shooting themselves in the foot, UConn, and now Virginia. So not like they're losing to terrible teams, but they've lost against all the good teams they faced. So the conversation around Duke going into this weekend was the ACC is not going to have someone in the college football playoff because of Duke. No one wanted to talk about, hey, Duke's 5-4, and they actually haven't really beaten anyone. They're probably not going to win out because they're just an average football team. And I mean that with respect. Like you get to a bowl, that's fine if they can do it over the next 2 weeks. But it is not a team that was like should be treated like Miami in a sense, that they should win out, that they should do this and they should do that, and they're going to cause all this chaos and the ACC is going to be screwed because of it. Not the case. Just not the case. And so Duke is who most everybody who watches them on a week-to-week basis thought they were. And I don't want to say they got exposed. They just are who I think they are. And so they are now out of the ACC race. I think it's safe to say they do have 2 losses. They do have 2 losses. They are not mathematically eliminated, but they are pretty much out now. And so I'm so glad for the ACC that conversation can be shoved right in the closet and put away for some other day when another team gets into that type of a situation. But for Duke, tough loss at home, disappointing, I'm sure, Manny Diaz and company. But talk about Chandler Morris missing some time this week in practice, stepping up, 2 touchdowns, leading his team despite throwing 2 interceptions. Got a huge day from Jamari Taylor, 130-plus yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, massive day for him. And they are able to completely keep themselves in this ACC championship race. If you look at Virginia's remaining schedule, you've got to think they've got a good chance to win out here. They they get a bye, and then they play Virginia Tech. That's it. So they have, I don't want to say punch their ticket to the ACC championship, because rivalry games, Virginia Tech always seems to get weird. And it's at home in Charlottesville. So what better way to send Philip Montgomery out as interim coach for Virginia Tech than to spoil that? But it seems like Virginia is going to be one of the teams in the ACC championship. The question is, who are they going to face? And I'm not doubting Virginia Tech in 2 weeks. We can talk about that week ahead of a little turkey time. But seems like Virginia is going to make it all the way to Charlotte. So credit to them for getting a huge win for their chances on the road at Duke. They did it just, being able to find a way to get up big and ride with that all the way through to that win. So they've got quite the test over the next 2 weeks to stay focused on what they need to do to make it there. But the Who's could very well be in Charlotte. What a story that would be for Tony Elliott and company. So congrats to them on the win. Massive one. Pete Nakos on in 7 minutes. Coaching search intel, Virginia Tech. I just mentioned them looking for a head coach, closing in on a head coach. We'll talk to Pete in just a few moments. But before we do, we've got a couple more games to get to here. But before we do that, I do want to remind you guys about our friends at Sportsmo. Download the Sportsmo app. It's a revolutionary way to gamify your giving to your favorite school and feel like you're involved, kind of like play some minor pledges with bets and things like that. You can kind of roast your friends for not playing with you. It is an easy way through micro donations to make an impact at your favorite school. So check out Sportsmo today and learn more about how you can help your favorite college football program.
Sportsmo lets you make a more direct impact on the game because it lets you, the fans, fund your favorite college football teams in a straightforward way. In a you win and I'll give way. In a I need you to show me your running game is alive and then I'll donate way. These real-time tax-deductible microfunds lead to impact your team can feel. Every cent you send mixes with every drop of sweat they put in. Form your squad. Boost your friends when a play comes through. A new way to follow the game. And cha-ching, your favorite team. So what do you say, difference makers? Ready to power the play? Sportsmo. Download today. Let's smo.
I appreciate Sportsmo for their support of us. Go to sportsmo.org to download the app today. Crazy times in college football. Teams losing some key games. Alabama falling to Oklahoma. You've got Texas Tech obviously beating BYU. That kind of helps the ACC in a sense, just where Tech is. But a lot to be played out in the college football playoff rankings. We'll have a reaction to that Wednesday on the show, Wednesday morning, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel, All Access AM. Click that subscribe button on YouTube, or follow us wherever you want to. We're live on X. We're live on YouTube and even Facebook too. So check us out. North Carolina loses to Wake Forest 28-12. Kind of a sleepy game in this one, as the Deacs just kind of rolled and took care of business. Kind of brought North Carolina back down to earth. 4-6 overall, 2-4 in the ACC. Really doesn't seem like they're going to make bowl eligibility. I got to think that Duke bounces back against them this week. But once again, the offense, for North Carolina, kind of showing some signs of life, but just nothing crazy. I believe they were right under 200 yards, right under 400 yards total. Kind of a balanced approach, but nothing crazy. Might have hit that 400-yard mark, but you finally got a little bit of, you did not get. I was looking at the wrong side. Gio Lopez hits the 200-yard mark, but didn't really do much of anything in the run game, and the Deacs had the balanced attack. They were able to move past North Carolina in this one. I got to watch bits and pieces of this game. It was fairly straightforward to me that Wake, by halftime, had completely cemented itself as far as where they were in this game. They were up 14-6. They were playing their style of ball. Damon Claiborne, just shy of 100 yards on the day, and they get the win. I believe this was the 4:30 Eastern time game, so kind of an interesting time there for those of you watching, kind of split between the 3:30, of course, afternoon games for the Eastern time folks, and then the 7:30 big matchups with Texas at Georgia and some of those other ones. It was a good day of college football, by the way. I thought it was a really entertaining day for the most part, especially that from that 2:30 Central time window and on. I was flipping around all sorts of games, seeing it all happen. Of course, watching that, I watched almost every snap of that Georgia Tech Boston College game. Had Duke, UVA hanging out in one of the corners there of the multicast. So it was quite the day. But the Deeks 7-3 overall, 4-3 in ACC play. They do face Duke at the end of the season, but they do get Delaware this weekend. So 9-win season certainly on the table there for Jake Dickert and company. Doing a great job turning that program around. Again, schedule is what the schedule is, but that's something you really can't control. But if they could get the 9 wins, man, what a track that program could be on. And hopefully that for the ACC leads to more investment from that school and kind of putting them on the map and recognizing what they have. At the same time, I would say watch Jake Dickert in a couple of years, because he's going to be the head coach of a bigger program at some point, I would think. But maybe he sets up the Deeks for success and can help them out there. But he's a good one for the ACC. All right, close this out because this is perfect timing here to finish up with Florida State beating down Virginia Tech. It was 10-7 at halftime, but then Florida State really took off and won this game 34-14. I watched a lot of this game. It was kind of this one felt like it dragged on. Of course, Texas-Georgia was a blowout, so I kind of started paying more attention to Florida State, Virginia Tech. And, I think this is a nice feather in the cap of sorts for Mike Norvell to kind of push him to return. They're sitting at 5-5. If they can go on the road and beat an NC State team that really is struggling to stop anyone right now, they can get to bowl eligibility. We'll talk to Pete Nakos in just a moment. He'll be on any second about what this means for Mike Norvell and his future. And then they finish up at Florida, who just lost to Ole Miss on the road. And Florida does face, let's see who they've got the week prior. They've got Tennessee, so kind of a tough finish there for Florida. But Florida State might have that opportunity to really finish this out and potentially get to 7 wins on the year. So that might quiet some of the things, especially if you can get a win over Florida. Anytime you can do that, beat your rival, that obviously helps. But Tommy Castellanos ran for 2 touchdowns, added a passing touchdown. So 34-14, nice win for Florida State. And for Virginia Tech, they really have played hard for Philip Montgomery, but 3-7 now, 2-4 in the ACC. Doesn't seem like Philip Montgomery is going to get that job. And we'll talk to Pete Nakos in just a second with more on why. But they've lost now to Florida State. They've lost Louisville. They've lost 4 of their last 5. So kind of a difficult start to that. I think they went out and beat NC State that first game that they had Philip Montgomery at the helm, but haven't been able to sustain much of anything. They played pretty hard. They really haven't had too many ugly games in a sense. They just haven't been able to get that offense going. So they really need somebody to come in and find some consistency for that team and really put them in the right direction as a whole for the future. And that's, what we're hearing, at least from Pete Nakos, who's going to join us shortly, is starting to get clearer. So really excited to talk with Pete here in just a minute about the coaching carousel and where things are at. He is a busy man, and he's going to be joining us in just a moment. So again, we'll wrap up the show here around 8 o'clock Central Time. We'll go with Pete as long as we can, of course, and get every single morsel of information around the coaching search carousel for a lot of these teams and where they stand. We're going to talk Virginia Tech, Florida State, and more. So do me a favor. Let's thank Pete for coming on. Hit the subscribe button to our channel as Pete Nakos joins. You know, locked in every Pete Nakos is reporting at On3, on3.com. Pete doing a great job with our entire team there. Pete, and hope a little bit of rest from time to time. this time of year, but it was quite the weekend for Mike Norvell to kind of maybe slow down some of the momentum around the pitchforks.
Yeah, they got NC State and Florida to close out the season. If he can win the next two, he's going to be in a really good spot to come back in 2026. So two more critical games for Mike Norvell and kind of deciding what 2026 is going to bring for him.
When you look at that decision making on Norvell, obviously if they split, you're going to a bowl. It seems like that's a good, decent bounce back from what was a complete train wreck last year. Is that the feeling, or is it just that there's kind of bad blood and it's a money decision where, look, it's not what we want to do, but it's might be what we have to do?
Yeah, I know Florida State's been encouraged that they're definitely better than last year. Right? They went 2-10 last year. They're 2 wins away from finishing the year 7-5. There's some buzz about could Thomas Castellanos come back, bring back some key pieces of the offense. I think we'll have to wait and see on that. So paying over $50 million, I think it'd be like almost $60 million. Actually, that's an insane amount of money, no matter who you are, and especially for Florida State, where they just finished new facilities and a brand new stadium. I think making those kinds of payments would not be easy at this point. You also add in the fact too, like Doak Campbell was almost like sold out on Saturday night. Like,
oh wow.
That typically doesn't happen when, the football team isn't doing well in Tallahassee, but that seemed to happen. So if people are going to be in the seats and there's some confidence that he can turn it around going into 2026, even more than he, did this year, then I think there's a pathway for him to return. But I also tell you at the same time, like losing the next two are going to put him in a very difficult position.
And let's turn the page here to the team that was on the other side of the ball from Florida State this past weekend. Virginia Tech, they are now 3-7. They're not going to a bowl. Their season is going to end here. Do you think by season end we'll see a new head coach of the Virginia Tech Hokies?
By when?
End of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of the regular or the weekend of, like following the regular season. Yeah, we'll see something by then.
And let's get to your reporting that you've done with On3 team. James Franklin emerging as the top candidate, top choice there. What's the latest there?
Yeah, at this point, it's Monday at 7:50 Central. The James Franklin and Virginia Tech talks have been a thing for like 2 weeks. Like he's talked to Auburn, he's talked to Arkansas since then. He's probably not going to be the guy at either one of those schools. Virginia Tech, if he actually does want to coach this year, is going to be a very good shot for him. Now, there's some other jobs that haven't opened up that I know that James Franklin would be a no-brainer for. Does he pass on Virginia Tech? Sorry about that. That's my cell phone. So we'll see. But things are going to get more and more interesting. Virginia Tech can only wait for so long.
And some of the other candidates involved there, Bob Chesney, John Summerall. I know Rick Neuheisel kind of dropped the bomb on their show over there that Bob Chesney's getting into the UCLA gig. You've been all over this though. Is that kind of smoke trying to force the hand of Virginia Tech to maybe get him more involved? What do you make of that?
Yeah, Virginia Tech has made very clear that they're targeting James Franklin, and that really isn't new news, despite some reporting this weekend. So, Bob Chesney's a top guy at UCLA. He's emerging at Penn State as a name to know. I would just say that, Virginia Tech's trying to do the best job possible of trying to keep in touch with other candidates and things like that when they wait on a decision from James Franklin.
When you look at Stanford, that job that Andrew Luck has had to kind of try to shop around for the better part of 8 months, it seems like. What's kind of the latest there, and what you're hearing as far as a timeline on that type of a hire?
Where's that again? I'm sorry.
Stanford.
Yeah, Stanford wants to make a hire here in the next 10 to 14 days. I don't know if we see something this week. There had been some chatter last week about something this week, but we'll see. I think it might be a little bit longer than that. But yeah, Andrew Luck has had a ton of time to make a decision. It's been, a pretty under wraps coaching search. Have kept a low profile in terms of just making sure stuff doesn't get out there. But I think we're going to continue to hear more and more about it in the coming days.
Let me press you a little bit there. Do you think if it were an NFL guy, and I don't know if it is, and I know it's being kept under wraps, but would that impact the hiring timeline, or would that be something where they can go another route, they can make another decision, and we maybe see it play out that way?
I mean, it could impact the timeline. At the same time, though, at this point, there's definitely some hot NFL names in the middle of this fall. I don't know if, on November 17th, it's going to be an NFL hire. So I'm still waiting for some more clarity around that.
And I know you're getting more and more information by the minute, so we appreciate your time, Pete. Let's go to NC State real quick. NC State, does it seem like that they're going to continue on with Dave Dorian now that they have that top 10 win, or if they miss a bowl, we could see them make a change?
Yeah, so beat number 8 Georgia Tech, what was it, 3 weeks ago now, because they had the bye. So that was a huge win for Dave Doran, but now they're coming off a blowout loss at Miami, and I think that's going to bring a lot of questions about Dave Doran's status kind of back into the spotlight. Listen, NC State is a really talented roster. If the Wolfpack bring back Dave Doran and he can keep that roster together, I think there's some reason for optimism in 2026, but how the next few weeks plays out will probably be critical in what his status is for the 2026 season.
I'm glad you brought up the talent level of the rosters. How much do schools factor in what they have versus kind of tying that to the coaching staff? Like Dave Dorian's put that roster together. They have talent. How much do they factor in kind of making wholesale changes versus, hey, this is a talented roster, we just have the right we don't have the right head coach at the helm for it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Dave Doran's done a heck of a job trying to build that roster there, and he's put a lot of work in to get, the Wolfpack into who they are today. So I don't know if it's that easy. I think that, he's done a great job bringing in CJ Bailey, who's clearly one of I don't know if he's a top quarterback in the ACC right now, but the talent's there, and he's going to probably mature into one. So, we'll see. I think everything's on the table at NC State, and I think there's a reason why we haven't heard like a very loud vote of confidence just yet, because I think they want to see how the end of the regular season plays out.
Let me circle back to Virginia Tech, and I'll get you out of here real quick because something kind of came to mind. Virginia Tech, they've announced that they're adding more dollars behind their football program and athletic department. They're making this investment. James Franklin has won a ton of football games at multiple different spots, including, of course, Vanderbilt. Tough to win there. How much does he factor in the entire picture? How much of the I don't want to say hang up, but how much of the hang up right now is, are we sure we're going to have everything here, or kind of waiting for other jobs to kind of play out?
Yeah, I know that there's been plenty of communication back and forth. That I think that they have it all smoothed over, where I don't think James has too many more questions about what the commitment to roster acquisition is going to look like and what his salary would be like. I think Virginia Tech's ready to roll. I think that they're just kind of waiting on a final word from James Franklin, which, I guess could come as early as today. I also thought it could come as early as yesterday. So we're kind of in a waiting game here. And I don't want to come out and say anything that's false. So it's just, we're in a waiting game.
And look, we'll be waiting for the latest from Pete Nakos at On3Sports. Go to on3.com, subscribe today, get all the latest from Pete Nakos, and give him a follow at Pete Nakos _ on Twitter. Pete, thanks so much for the time. Actually, you dropped the underscore. I think you're
I did
Pete Nakos. Big breaking news on the show. So, Pete Nakos, thanks so much, buddy, and good luck the rest of the way. All right, there he goes. Pete Nakos out the door, back to work. You could hear it. That is the sound of coaching search season with Pete Nakos. Phone ringing, text coming in, and every second is, of course, a big piece of news coming across that man's phone, and he's one of the best. So we're really appreciative of him for his time joining us once again on All Access AM. Everybody, we really appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. Just want to thank our friends at Security National Bank for sponsoring the Monday show, of course, as well as Sportsmo. But most importantly, another reminder, guys, go to lalalandfoundation.com and learn more about how you can support the La La Land Foundation, our new partners over there. Really excited about what we can do together with them, what we can show you guys about kindness and how you can elevate someone else's life through that, and not just doing it through checking a box or making a donation, but you can support financially. You can do those types of things, but it's an incredible foundation where you can mentor someone and change lives as kids age out of the foster care system. They need more support than ever in this world that we live in today. So visit the La La Land Foundation at lalalandfoundation.com. And of course, try their coffee at one of their cafes, wherever you can find them at. So they're spreading rapidly across the country, but that foundation is really the backbone of what they're doing there. So we're so appreciative of their support. Appreciate all of you guys for watching us on YouTube or on X or wherever you're catching us at. We really appreciate it. A huge, huge growth this episode, just kind of watching the numbers roll in. So we appreciate all of you guys watching us. And thanks so much for doing that. And we will catch you guys next time on another edition of All Access AM. Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, we break down college football playoff rankings. We update power rankings. We make predictions. We make picks. We'll have guests on. We'll talk some ACC hoops as well. We didn't get to that on today's show. But also SMU men's soccer captures the ACC championship Sunday afternoon, and the Stanford women's soccer team captured the ACC women's soccer championship. So congratulations to those two teams for getting it done on Sunday. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of All Access AM. Thanks for joining us. I'm Billy Embody. We'll see you Wednesday morning. Thanks for listening.